Well Rooted is brought to you by Gerard and Associates CPAs. With locations throughout Los Angeles, Gerard and Associates has been guiding entrepreneurs and creatives towards realizing their dreams for over 20 years. Discover how they can support your vision at gerardcpa.com. Hey, it's Haneen, and I'm back with another episode of Well Rooted. Today, I am joined by two-time award-winning storyteller, author, publicist, writer, editor, producer, Jenan Matari. This is an inspiring and informative interview that you do not want to miss. So please welcome Jenan Matari onto Well Rooted. I welcome Jenan Matari to Well Rooted. This is going to be a great episode. I mean, you are a two-time award-winning master storyteller, creator, publicist, editor, and now a published author. Congratulations.
You.
Let's just start there. Let's talk about Everything Grows in Jiddo's Garden and your inspiration to write that book.
Yeah, absolutely. This is like my first real time actually talking about it. It's alive, it's in the world, which I'm so grateful to finally see it come to life. It's a project that was started a little over 3 years ago. So in February of 2022, I had sat my grandparents down and I just wanted to get their stories. I talk about it a lot in my content, but I didn't grow up with Nakba stories. I didn't grow up hearing about Palestine from my grandfather. The way that my family dealt with the trauma of displacement was to just kind of hold it in and kind of keep those stories to themselves and just move on.
Mm-hmm.
And so nobody asked my grandfather questions about his childhood. And like we knew that he, had survived the Nakba. We knew that they were forced out of their homes. But nobody asked him what his life was like before then. And so I wanted to do that. I wanted to do that for my family. I had only had, one child at the time. Now I have two, alhamdulillah, but I wanted to just record these stories for my kids who, I would love to say that all of our elders can live forever, but the reality of it all is that they're not going to get to hear these stories from my grandparents firsthand. So I wanted to record something for them to be able to watch, just in case like I missed anything, right? Like memories get passed down, stories get
Right.
passed down, but there are some things that get lost or forgotten, and I wanted to try and save everything. So, in the process of doing these interviews, I had just asked my grandfather what his life was like pre Nakba in Palestine, and he started telling me about how his father was a landscaper and a gardener, pre Nakba. And he taught him how to garden, and they had, a fruit and vegetable garden in their home. And I I knew that gardening was something that was like in our lineage,
Mm-hmm.
bless him. He's 89 years old today and still has a magnificent garden in his backyard that you can eat from.
Oh, wow.
Um, but I never really understood it. I grew up very like mentally colonized, I guess is the term.
Yeah, that's a great term for it.
Yeah, it was like why I never understood my grandfather gardening because it included so much labor
Mm-hmm.
and hard work. And I was like, you can just go to the grocery store and get cucumbers. Like, I don't understand
Right.
this obsession with having to grow your own food. And so, further along in the interview process, him and my grandmother are telling me the story about eventually when they made their way to Jordan. They had lived through Black September, which is the Civil War during the 1970s. And my grandmother said that you couldn't leave your front door to go get groceries or to get food or anything without the fear of like being caught in the crossfires of the Civil War. And so I
Mm.
had asked her, what sustained you guys? Like how did you get food if you couldn't go to the grocery
Yeah.
store and buy it? And she was like, well, Jiddo's garden. Jiddo was keeping this garden in the courtyard of their concrete home, and it was something that he carried, this tradition that he carried with him even through survival of the Nakba and into their new home in Jordan. And it's what kept them alive. They had two kids, one of whom was my mother. So she survived off of Jidda's garden. And it was like in that moment that everything kind of clicked for me of like, wow, I understand his attachment to his garden and why it's so important to him and why I need to start, doing this, why I need to start carrying on this tradition of our family just having a green thumb. I thought that it was something that I wasn't really like blessed with, but then I
Right.
started my first garden last year and I had like 10-foot tall tomato
Wow,
trees
mashallah.
and these beautiful, cucumber arches, which was like a really nice affirming moment for me to know that like it was passed down. It is something that like you can kind of tap into. So that's a very long-winded version of like where the book comes from. And I took my oldest son to Jiddo's garden in New Jersey, and I just kind of watched him follow Jiddo around, and every once in a while, Jiddo would pull an apple down from the tree and give it to him to eat, and while he's chewing on the apple, Jiddo would hand him blueberries and blackberries from his garden, and it was just so sweet to watch my son um, just following my old man of a Jiddo around,
Yeah.
and just enjoying everything. He's kind of a picky eater, but watching him just like take everything from Jiddo's hands that he watched him pick was a really uh, sweet experience to have. And so when I wrote the book, it was initially me telling this story of my son and my grandfather, which was what I had experienced. And then Aya Ganama, the illustrator of the book, got the story. And I had sent her the pictures from that day. And, she had read the story and I told her about the background. And when I had gotten the first draft of the illustrations, it was actually me and my grandfather that she had
Oh.
drawn. Um, so it was like a very sweet kind of full circle moment of like me not appreciating the experiences I had with my grandfather in his garden as a young girl, but now being able to do so through this story while also having it be the story that I'm telling my children.
Yeah, no, that's so beautiful. And I relate to, where your mindset was originally, because I feel like we don't get why our grandparents and aunties and uncles are like stopping on the side of the road to pick, fruit off trees, right? Like they're just always so connected to nature and to the land in some way. And it's so wonderful to like stop and like really understand the beauty of that and the importance of that in their lives. It's
Mhm.
great. Did you always plan to make it into like a children's book or I mean, was that in your landscape at all?
No, never. It was actually, I'm more of like a long form
Mm-hmm.
writer, so I've always been used to writing, like longer articles, political pieces. I have a novel that I've been working on for a number of years that I don't know that it'll ever see the light of day, but I like to think that it's,
One day.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's something that will eventually come to life. But I actually was having a conversation with my husband's best friend. They live in Colorado now, and so every year they come to visit us during the holidays here. And I was telling him about these interviews. He's from a very like old school Italian family, so just like appreciates
Yeah.
the ability to like speak with elders and record their stories. And I was telling him how I couldn't figure out how to turn this moment of like realizing that my grandfather's attachment to his garden is actually the example that I needed to understand like indigenous connection to land into this like beautiful novel for adults. And he was like, actually, I don't think it should be a novel at all. Like when you were telling me the story, I was envisioning these vibrant colors of his garden, and I
Mm-hmm.
think it would be awesome for a children's book. Um, and so I think like a month later, I just sat down and in like an hour, I wrote the entirety of Everything Grows in Jinda's Garden.
Wow.
Um, yeah. And
Well, there you go. That's the fastest book you'll
the
ever
also name goes to
write.
my husband's friend. His name is Zach. And yeah, so it was just like this idea that someone, gave me and immediately when he said, the vibrant colors of the garden, I was like, okay, I know exactly what this story has to be about. I know exactly who I want to illustrate it. I actually I pitched it to Interlink with the footnote of like, if we do this, it has to be with Aya because I love her work. And Yeah, so we officially had signed the contract in June of 2023. After,
Oh,
initially
wow.
pitching it to them in March of
Wow,
2023.
so
So
it's a
everything,
process.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I love
Um,
like the intentionality behind, knowing you want to work with a specific illustrator, knowing it will be published with interlinked books. Talk to us a little bit about that and why it's important for you to work with, very specific individuals when it comes to telling your story.
yeah, I think I, I'd like to believe that everything I do is, rooted in good intention.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically with this project, because among many things, it was meant to be a way to help Palestinian parents, specifically in diaspora, or Arab parents in diaspora, kind of like reroute their children
Mm,
in this connection with nature that I felt very disconnected from growing up. And it was also a way to help us teach our children about the Nakba. I don't know when you're supposed to start a conversation with a 3-year-old about
yeah.
dis- and genocide and ethnic cleansing.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to find a way to do that, and I knew that nobody understands that struggle and also the dynamic that you need, and the intention behind, all of the moving parts that come along with creating a children's book than other Palestinians. So I was very
Right.
adamant that um, it was only Palestinian hands that touched this project.
I love that.
This is a fully Palestinian made. It's a fully Palestinian women made project, which I think makes it like
Amazing.
extra special. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just there were so many things that like I would have had to have explained or fight to have kept within the book, had I gone with another publisher that wasn't Palestinian. There were so many details that would have been missed in the artwork if it wasn't a Palestinian illustrator. Like when you get the book, you'll see the Teta is wearing a thobe, and every little detail on the thobe is hand drawn by Aya, which
Wow.
took her hours to do. Even the photos. There's a spread in the book with images from the Nakba that she pulled from actual like historical archives, and again like hand drew them all, so things that took hours upon hours for an artist to do that I think a non-Palestinian would have just been like, it's easier to just digitize this, or
Right.
to just exclude that. She really went like above and beyond with every single spread in the book, and I really believe that it's because she's also Palestinian and she knows like how important a project like this is.
Yeah, and it's super important. And it's so great to hear that. It's like a book for us by us, you know? Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
proof that we can do it ourselves, like,
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what we should be doing. Like we should be
yeah,
doing that in all aspects. No, that's amazing. And just like mom to mom, like I'm curious to get your thoughts. Like how do you speak to your children about what's happening in Palestine? And I mean, you're not only are you outspoken, but you speak very intelligently and you're able to educate so many of us. I've been Palestinian my whole life, but I've learned so much from you as well. So I'm just curious as how do you format that conversation for children?
yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I love knowing that like even we can learn from each other.
Yeah.
Um, and it is hard. My children are still very young, so I'm still able to kind of control what they see, what they hear, how they understand things. Um, they're 5 and 2.
Mm,
Um,
babies.
and I decided that when we speak of Palestine, we are only going to talk about Palestine and Palestinians. Um, I don't name Zionism for a 5-year-old, they won't understand it. I don't name Israel. I don't speak of Judaism. When we talk about how we lost our family home, it's in the context of strangers, bad people and strangers who took it from us. My 5-year-old understands that there are strangers living in my grandfather's home that he is now like yearning for. And I don't know if that's like a good or bad thing, but every once in a while, he'll just be like staring out into space and I'll be like, what are you thinking about, mama? And he's like, "Oh, I just, when do we get to like kick the strangers out and take our home back?" And I'm like,
Oh
oh
my
my
God,
God.
the cutest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, no, it's sweet. And at the same time, I want them to be attached to their life here, right?
Right.
Like it's a very fine line of like making sure that they're not disconnected from the world that they're actually living in and the world that we're hoping to live in one day. Um, and so, yeah, when it comes to speaking of like Palestinian identity, it's a lot of taking care of nature and everything within it. That includes, the trees, the ground, the animals, the people.
Hmm.
He understands that Palestinians, as indigenous people, are, given this role of like protecting um, the earth and protecting nature and protecting the animals and like coexisting with the bee. He's terrified of insects, but like um, very like sentimental when it comes to um, things dying. I guess like he
Right.
understands like the concept of life and mortality. And a good example is like we were planting in the garden one day and we found a dead bumblebee that had just like you know lived out its life.
Right.
And it was a bumblebee that used to, we would watch it kind of like fall asleep in the cucumber flowers.
Oh, you guys had a relationship with this bumblebee.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We had a
Yeah,
relationship,
yeah.
and then the bee died.
Oh,
And so he like wanted to bury the bee because death is also very much a part of my children's lives much earlier than it was in mine because my father-in-law passed away before
mm,
I ever got to meet him. And so it's just it's a part of their life. Like we go visit Jiddo at the cemetery. We talk about Jiddo um, in the context of angels, and so they understand it much earlier than I ever did as a kid, and they don't seem to be afraid of it. And I'm hoping it kind of like stays that way.
right.
Um, but so he understood that when something dies, you have to put it back into the ground. And so he asked to hold like a funeral for this bumblebee, and we buried the bumblebee where we planted the basil. And he like thanked the bumblebee for going back into the ground. And then when we got this
Wow.
beautiful like basil bush out of it, he talks about the bee being a part of the basil bush. And so um, things that I never like specifically taught him, but he just kind of caught onto because I'm encouraging him to tap into like that indigenous brain of just like understanding connection with everything that is living on this planet. And that's how I teach them what it means to be Palestinian. Like they understand that, the concept of a boycott, we don't buy certain things anymore because it hurts Palestine. I don't have to go into too much detail. All you have to tell a child is that, something that you're buying is, hurting other kids somewhere in the world and they don't want anything to do with it anymore. So it's actually very easy to get kids to like understand empathy and care for other people other than themselves.
Yeah, and I think like everything you said really comes down to empathy, empathy for nature, empathy for all living creatures. And yeah, if you just understand that, then this everything else will make sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love that. Um, and I want to just shift gears right now, really quick because you've been writing and
Mhm.
I honestly like I feel like your voice has just been amplified the last almost 2 years and you've been able to like as I said before educate so many, but you've been doing the work. Like you've been writing, you've been editing, and I want to talk about Miss Muslim really quick because I was talking to a friend of mine the other day and she actually brought it up and she was like, I used to read it, and she's like, and I really liked it. And I was like, I didn't really like know about it at the time, but I was, in my research, I found it. And can you just talk to us about that and what, inspired you to create that platform?
Yeah, it's so funny. I love when people find things of like
It's still out
path.
there.
Yeah. So Miss Muslim was a blog that was running for about I think it was finally shut down in 2021. And it started in 2016.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so just 5 years. It was amazing. And the focus was definitely more on the Muslim identity, more so than the Palestinian identity, which is, my focus is now. Um, and it was right before, Trump took his first reign in office. And so like talking about Muslim issues was very hot, but
Right.
I didn't want to do it in the stereotypical way that people read Muslim content, where it's like we're kind of begging people to hear our side, our version,
Right.
to like see us as worthy or to not be afraid of us. And a lot of the content that was out about Muslim women in particular was like convincing people that we weren't oppressed, convincing people that we were just your average American like everybody else. I wanted it to be a place for our women to talk about issues that we were raised to see as shameful or too taboo, and just get like really hard conversations going. A lot of that revolved around talking about mental health, talking about um, sexual health, gynecological health, talking about queerness, talking about career, balancing career and motherhood. Um, and I'm a big believer in that, like, if you have something to say that you feel like you can't kind of hold in, it means that like somebody in the world needs to hear whatever it is you have to say. And the feedback was incredible. And the amount of people who told me that they felt seen or that they felt like they weren't the only person going through whatever it is that they were going through just by reading an article by someone on the blog. At one point, we had, upwards of 20 writers,
Wow.
um, and everybody wrote about, something different that was like, they were passionate about it. Um, and it was just a really wonderful like community space. And I made friends that will be with me until the day that I die, like through
Wow,
that
I
process.
love that. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it was amazing. We had some really cool partnerships. Like there was every week we would do like an ask the doctors type of thing where like if a woman was too embarrassed to ask a question about her health to her actual doctor, or if she wasn't going to a doctor, she could ask, the doctors that were a part of our team, and they would answer it. They would ask it anonymously. They would answer. And so it was just kind of a way to like get people to understand that like your questions are valid. You don't have to be ashamed of whatever it is you're thinking about. And that there is a place for you to like learn more and explore and like still be surrounded by community.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it was a really safe space for Muslim women, and to get
Yes.
to talk about issues that, yeah, as you said, are very taboo in our culture traditionally, and we don't really get to have open conversation about. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, everybody was so focused on which I get is necessary, but like the focus on trying to fit into the West and convince the West that like we belonged here kind
Mm-hmm.
of over it would override like really important things that we needed to talk about. It would just like take a back seat, like our own mental health and
Yeah,
our physical health would take a back seat. Um and so the world can be really lonely when you don't have people to talk to, and I just wanted it to be a space where people could share thoughts and reach each other. And yeah, I'm really grateful for everything that all the doors that it opened up for us.
that's great. And yeah, to your point, I do feel like all of us that grow up here grow up with like this innate like feeling where it feels like we constantly have to humanize ourselves. Like a lot of it like starts at a really young age, right? It's like you get a chance to do a biography report and it's like you're going to use it as a way to educate your class about being Arab or being a Muslim and how human we are. It's like
Yeah,
we seek those platforms and we have to create it for ourselves, but a lot of times we're like in this fight or flight mode and we don't really take the time to really lean into what we need as well as a community. So I appreciate
yeah,
that. Yeah.
thank you.
I mean, when do you like what, because you mentioned earlier like you grew up with like this colonized mindset, which I think a lot of us relate to here in the States. When did you first like begin to shed that and really lean into your identity in a way that allowed you to create Miss Muslim and create all the work that you do today?
It's funny. Somebody the other day had asked me when I realized I wasn't white, because I grew up like thinking that I was a white girl.
Yeah.
Like, I,
Same.
yeah, I mean, I look white. I sound white, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Um, and I was taught to kind of like take advantage of that for safety purposes, like just kind of fly under the radar for as long as you can,
Hmm.
because life is easier that way, and it absolutely was. But it had no meaning. It had like no substance. And so they asked me, like when did you realize that you weren't this white girl from New Jersey that you
Mhm.
thought you were your whole life? And I think I was about 24 years old, and I was writing for another blog prior to creating Miss Muslim, and there was a group chat of the editors, and I was sending, everybody was like sending emojis to confirm that we had like received a message, and I sent a thumbs up emoji in like the whitest skin option, and everybody in the chat started like making fun of me, and they're like, "This girl like literally thinks she's white." And I was like,
Oh.
"What are you talking about? What do you mean I think I'm white?" And like that is the moment that I started like
The
unlearning that
emoji,
like
the
Arabs
emoji
actually
got
are
it
not
to
white.
you.
Yeah, thanks
Yeah,
to an
yeah.
iPhone emoji. Um, and so that was like my first like kind of wake up call of like, actually, you're not white and that's not a bad thing. And so I just started, like understanding um my childhood a bit more, and this like desire to fit in and kind of always feeling like I didn't. I understood where that came from.
Hmm.
Um a little bit more. And I also stopped trying to fit in. So like at one point I was like, okay, you know, I'm not I'm not this person who I thought I was. I don't have I do have privilege, but I don't have the same type of privileges that, my white friends have. I also don't have the same interests. Like I realized that I had spent a lot of time like forcing myself to like convince myself that I was interested in the same, extracurricular
Hmm.
activities and the same like goals and aspirations as this like average American girl. Um, but I wasn't interested in that at all. It just didn't feel natural to me to like want to do the same things that, my friends were doing, or to have the same type of career trajectory that they all wanted. I want, specifically for me, like I knew that I wanted to um, get married and have a family and like, be rooted in culture. And um, it was kind of something that a lot of people like looked down upon,
Yeah.
um, specifically when it came to, being in the corporate world. I got engaged at 25, and people were like shocked.
Yeah. Child
And it was
bride.
also like 8 months after I met my husband. So they
Yeah,
were
yeah.
like,
They're like, what's going on
yeah,
here?
they're like, what are you being literally like people thought I had a boss at the time who was like, is this really what you want? I was like, nobody's forcing me to do this, bro. Like, what do you
Yeah, yeah.
are
It's
you
like
I
a foreign
appreciate the concern,
concept.
but like, why is that your first thing, And it was weird because I came from a culture where like 25 is old to not be married with kids.
Exactly.
And I'm living in a world where 25, 8 months after dating somebody, is like, are you insane? You want to get married to this person? And so it was just a lot of, accepting that I was not the person that I was really trying so hard to be. And part of the reason why I think Miss Muslim did so well was because a lot of it was just genuine curiosity and questions that I had myself, and things that I needed to hear and things that I wanted to read for myself.
Hmm.
Um, and like we said before, like I try to do everything with intention. And so the intention was to just kind of like help myself understand my identity a little bit more,
Yeah.
with the understanding that if I'm feeling this way, I know there's somebody else that feels this way too. And so once you start, you kind of just can't stop.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so freeing to really lean into who you are.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah. And you also realize who is going to kind of stick with you throughout the process. That's something that I really learned after October 7th.
Yeah.
Um, there
Yeah.
are parts of your identity that people will accept, and others that they just cannot get on board with. They will never understand it. They will never try to understand it. And so it's like the more you write, the more you speak your mind, you know, um, the more grace that you give yourself, and the more you trust yourself with the things that you're saying. The ones who are not actually supportive of like you being truly who you're meant to be will just kind of naturally drop off.
Hmm.
Especially, it was easy for people to read about being Muslim. Like I said, it was a hot topic. It's still a hot topic. Everybody loves to have a Muslim friend so that they can, say, I'm not racist. I'm not
Hmm.
xenophobic. I'm not Islamophobic. Like I have Muslim friends.
Right.
Um, but specifically when it comes to having a Palestinian friend, like that requires a different level of understanding and empathy and trust in a friendship.
Hmm.
And that trust was broken through a lot of friendships that I thought I would carry out, throughout the rest of my life with me. People who were very excited and very on board with having the Muslim friend, but like wanted nothing to do with having a friend from Palestine.
That's wild. That's just, it's so wild. The mental gymnastics people will do to justify the racism,
Mhm.
like that, it's crazy. And I just want to ask you then, like, how has October 7th and everything that's happened since really shifted how you approach your storytelling and also how you kind of approach navigating your career and what you plan to do next?
Yeah, I think those people that like drop off, the more people that drop off, the more like the louder and like more specific and the more intentional I get with everything that I say. Like I don't think we realize how much of ourselves we're holding back until the people that are the reason why we're holding parts of ourselves back are no longer in our lives. So we don't have to be afraid to upset them or make them afraid of us or, offend them. And the minute that all of those people were out of my life, it was like, okay, I know exactly what needs to be said. I know exactly how it needs to be said. Also, it's like, in a way, kind of reinforcing that knowledge because if I, as a Palestinian, can reach so many people online who don't know me, who don't love me, who haven't had a personal relationship with me in the physical life, like in real life, if I can't get through to if I could get through to people like that, but I can't get through to people like in my actual life who have known me and had the opportunity to love me for upwards of a decade, it's like a good reminder that like the work is nowhere near
Right.
finished, that there is always a sense of doubt in people's mind about Palestinian humanity that you have to continuously appeal to, and get people to like stay focused and help people like understand these like biases that they have in their minds about us that they aren't even aware of, like
Hmm.
they're completely, in their subconscious. um so like a lot of the times I'll get comments from people that like, why are, take a break, why are you still, doing this, or
Hmm.
this is everybody that loves Palestine or knows about Palestine already knows all of the information that you're saying. But no, like I actually have people in my life still today that I love dearly and I trust and I know that they are pro-Palestinian, but it's still not where it needs to be, right? Like they
Hmm.
still don't understand the concept of colonialism. They still amplify white voices or non-Palestinian voices over our own content and our own stories. And so like I have those reminders of like, this is why you have to keep going, because you have to help people fully decolonize their minds, in order to like truly see the change that we need, for us to like experience the idea of liberation and like living in freedom and the ability to return back home. So I think I veered off.
No, but no, that was great. I mean, because that just gives me like a whole new understanding of your purpose and what you do as well. And yeah, like, and in that you're still aware of that. Like, you're still aware of the idea that there are still people that will support you, but they're just not where they need to be to fully understand the struggle of the Palestinian people. And
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I walk outside my house every single day, and I have neighbors who are afraid of us.
yeah,
So it's a literal reminder every single
no,
day. You
yeah, no,
know.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about your roots and your family background.
Yeah. So my family is Palestinian. My mother's family is in the Old City in Jerusalem. My maternal family, and my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, who is the inspiration for the children's book. It was from a village called Ein Gadam, which was
Mm.
taken from us in 1948. Um, and my father's family, my grandfather is from a small village called Beit Anan in the West Bank, and all my family is, still there.
Wow.
Um, yeah,
Yeah,
and
mashallah, that's great.
my grandmother's family, she's part Lebanese and part Brazilian. So
Ooh.
my dad was actually born in Brazil, lived there for the first 6 years of his life. His first language is Portuguese.
Wow.
Um, so I have a Siti, but she's more of like a Latina grandma.
Yeah, yeah.
Has all the stereotypical characteristics and mannerisms of having a Latina grandma, which is awesome. But yeah, so um, my mom was born in Jordan. My parents are immigrants, but very came here very, very young. Um, they met on the beach in New Jersey, so very classic New
Oh, they
Jersey love
so they
story.
immigrated here before they found each other.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
they grew up here. So I'm like technically by like legal standards, I am like first generation born and in the United States as a first generation born American
Hmm.
for both of my parents. But I'm technically second generation raised,
Yeah.
which is why I think that explains the type of upbringing that I
Yeah.
had, the like loss of culture a little bit throughout the
Hmm.
years, even though my mother did like an incredible job teaching us about who we are. She would come into our classrooms every year and like teach our friends, and teach them about our culture and our religion. Um, but there's still like a little bit of loss that happened um, between her being raised here and us being raised here, that I'm learning how to reconnect with and like fill in those blanks for my kids as we raise them here.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely relate to that feeling as well, especially now more than ever. I'm like, I'm not doing enough. Like, I need to make sure they have a really solid Palestinian identity.
Yeah.
Yeah. When do
Do
you
your kids do they speak Arabic?
So no, and it really that comes down, I think, to fault of my husband and I. Like we're just not speaking it at home enough. They
Yeah.
go to an Islamic school, which which is great to help them learn and to read and write in Arabic, but they don't converse in Arabic there. It's still a school in America.
Yeah.
So it really comes down to us. Do you guys try to speak Arabic at home?
We try, but I'm not fluent. So like I have the language loss that a lot of these kids are going to have,
Yeah.
um, because my parents always spoke English to us in the house. Like their parents speak Arabic to them. My dad and my grandma, like they speak Portuguese.
Hmm.
But my grandfather and my dad spoke Arabic. Um, and it just kind of like fizzled out. And I will say that like for all of the parts of me that I'm so proud to have like reconnected with, that like make me this like strong Palestinian woman, um, the language loss is something that like is kind of soul crushing because I always wonder if it's a part of me that like I will ever actually reconnect with, right? Like I can sit and I can make you a motif, via Tetris, and do it for hours. I can learn to cook any dish of Palestinian cuisine. I can walk around in a thobe, but like I can dance. I can do the depka. I can dance at weddings. But like there's so much of our culture that's tied to language, and specifically as a writer and somebody who like enjoys to read, I almost like every time I create a piece of content or if I read something that's been translated from Arabic into English, like I know that there's so much sentiment and feeling that is not being translated because Arabic is such a superior language to English, and it involves so much more emotion that you just don't get from the English language. It simply just doesn't exist.
Right.
um, so there's so many aspects of my life and my career and what I'm doing that remind me that like I don't have this piece of our identity that I'm trying so hard to
Yeah, but
like.
it's not too late. Like I truly believe like that is something you will, and it ebbs and flows. Like I grew up in like a mixed race household. My stepdad is white. Like I grew up in Texas,
Okay.
white, redneck, Texas, high school football coach, like the whole nine yards. And my
Wow.
mom, yeah, and my mom would speak Arabic to me and I would always answer her in English. And I think growing up, going to visit family in Kuwait helped, like, kind of immerse me in the language. But when you come back, you lose it because everything here is in English. But I
Yeah.
don't think it's too late. I always think I can speak great Arabic until I'm speaking with like a fluent Arabic speaker, and I'm like, wow, I'm not that confident in it after all. And then it's funny because I try to like say like what like if we're out in public, my boys are a little older, so they're like 11, 8, and 5. So I'm at the
Okay.
stage where like we'll be at the store and I'm like, halas, like, like I don't want to like say it in English and they're like, what does that mean? Like, what are you saying? And I'm like, you guys know what I'm saying. And I'm like, wow, I need to work with them more at home. But and your kids are so young. I feel like there's a way for them to maybe like really pick it up and maybe do like Arabic tutoring or something when they get a little older and they're able
Yeah.
to learn,
Yeah. My
more.
oldest started Arabic and Islamic school on
Oh,
Sundays.
perfect.
So like wanted to just
Yeah.
immerse him into the community at least for
Mm-hmm.
now. And I have a tutor.
Oh, that's
She
great.
Yeah, she's in Haifa. Um,
Amazing.
and so I actually feel like this is the first time that I have broken through like the insecurity of speaking Arabic out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Because my husband is fluent. He was born and raised in Amman, so
Okay,
like
yeah, my husband's an
not
immigrant as
fluent,
well.
but
So I'm
yeah.
like, this is kind of your fault. Like you should be
Yeah,
speaking more at
that's what
home.
I said. I was
Yeah.
like, this is a perk to marrying you, but apparently I have to
It
fill
still
this
falls on
blanket.
me.
Yeah. So, and I know, like, I even tell him, like, to try and speak English or to speak Arabic with me, but it's easier in English. Also, he's been here longer than he, lived in
Right.
Jordan. So, like, it's his main language now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, I feel like, um, I have finally gotten through, or I guess past that barrier of like being too embarrassed to try and
Mm-hmm.
even practice out loud.
Yeah.
And I, for the first time, feel like I might actually get some like, fluid,
Yeah.
like conversational
I
out
mean,
of
it's
the.
a complex language too. Like I conversationally, like I can handle it, but like the reading and writing is really hard and it's just not the way that we converse and there's
Mhm,
so much that goes into it. And to your point earlier, it's such a rich language. Like there are words that don't even exist in English, right? Like we don't even have translations for. And how do you really describe that to someone who doesn't understand or speak Arabic? But
mhm.
a great job in like putting the kids in the Saturday school or the weekend school because I think that's so important for them to have community in some way and to have that so young is great.
Yeah, I love it. I
Yeah.
also, I realize my son loves it. I think like our generation might be a little bit traumatized from
Yeah, I
Islamic
actually
school.
like avoided Islamic school my whole life,
Yeah,
but I love that my
yeah.
kids have it.
I definitely hated it. And it's definitely different because now our generation is teaching these kids.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit more gentleness
Yeah.
involved
But
in
we
the
need
schools.
help.
Yeah. But like I I noticed on the first day of Arabic school, my son, he started a little bit later than all the other kids. So he introduced himself to his class. Um, and I'm not going to say it out loud just because I keep my kids like
Yeah, of course.
heroes and names. So he has an English pronunciation and an Arabic pronunciation of his name. And so when he, introduced himself to his class, he's so used to, in school, you give your white name
Right.
essentially. So he
Right.
said it, and I was like, "No, Mama, this is Arabic school. Everybody has a name like you. Everybody is Arab, so you can give them your real name." And his face like lit up, and then he like reintroduced himself,
Oh,
and
that's so sweet.
nice to see him not have to code switch
Yeah,
in a school setting, which I think is so important for our kids, to have like a school setting, which is something that they're in for a majority of their day during the week, right? Where they actually just get to be themselves and around other kids who are exactly like them. They don't have to change the way they pronounce their names. They don't have to, be shy about the food that they're bringing in for lunch. Um,
absolutely.
and so, and I say that as a mom who gives my son a peanut butter
Like
sandwich for
turkey
lunch every day. So
sandwiches.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
a bit of a fraud in that department. My
Lunchable.
youngest is a better eater, but yeah. But like to
Yeah, no,
have,
I get it.
yeah,
It's so funny because I never grew up going to Islamic school. I also super whitewashed upbringing, and and my son goes, my 11-year-old will go to school. Like I think he spent the whole full year after October 7th, and just us speaking with him and he got really into going to protests. A full year of him wearing a kofia to school every single day. I if we were in any other school, especially here in Los Angeles, he would not be wearing a kofia to school, like anywhere. But just knowing that he's safe there and that it's like welcoming and he can kind of like nurture that part of his identity. Um,
yeah,
yeah, like where else can they really have that if they don't have that community, at such a young
yeah,
age?
yeah. I love that.
Yeah. When do you or do you remember when you first became aware of the injustice faced by Palestinians? Like, do you remember how old you were when you first began hearing about it?
Um, Probably around first or second grade. I remember visiting my Siti and CD, like Hamo CD, and he would just be like in front of the TV watching Al Jazeera. Like everybody just grew up watching
Yeah.
their parents or grandparents like watching Al Jazeera. I remember him crying um, many times while watching the TV, and again, just like the garden, like not understanding why this old man wanted to put so much labor into the ground. I was like, why is he doing this to himself? Just turn it off.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to watch it, you know?
Right.
Um, and I think that was kind of my concept of being Palestinian for a really long time. Like, I know that something is happening. I didn't fully understand it. Um, but I really exercised that like nasty privilege of like, I don't have to understand it because I live here.
Right.
Um, and I don't know why, but I mean, I do know why. It was the first time that I was like seeing dead children on social media in 2014, um, when Israel was assaulting Gaza. Then they had killed over 500 kids, um, and I couldn't turn it off. Like I understood my grandfather in that moment of like, this is the very least that we can do is like witness this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that kind of changed my whole like perspective on what it meant to be Palestinian. And like, again, my family was also from the West Bank and like the old city. So the most that I grew up understanding was like land theft
Mm-hmm.
and the occasional like distant cousin being murdered by Israeli police or Israeli military, for throwing a rock, for being at a checkpoint, for being at the wrong place at the wrong time, and that was like that was the fear that I kind of grew up understanding. But then when that happened in Gaza in 2014, it like unlocked this new fear of like what it meant to be Palestinian, like what they're actually doing to us. Um, and I started focusing a little bit more on my Palestinian identity. And it wasn't until 2021 where I really decided that it was going to be like the center of my work. Um, I, I said I have had a career in corporate America. I had it for 12 years before I finally left. Um, and I had always monitored what I was saying. I always like I knew what I could say, what I couldn't say, what would get me in trouble, what would like raise some eyebrows. And in 2021, um, I had a boss who told me that um, she was like, I don't know anything about what's happening. So in 2021, just for context, it was when Sheikh Jarrah became
Mm.
like the talk of every media corporation. Um, and I was watching what happened to my grandfather, like in real time, happening to those Palestinians from that village. And I started speaking more loudly. I started speaking more clearly. I started making it very known, like where my stance was. And I had a boss who told me, we were friends on social media, which I don't recommend for anyone to ever do. Don't be friends with your colleagues on social media. And she had told me, I'm neutral. I don't know anything that's going on. I don't understand it, but you need to temper your messaging when it comes to Palestine, and let me help you do that. I'll help you craft your message. And I was like,
That doesn't
you just
sound very
told me that you
neutral.
don't yeah, but also you just told me that you don't understand anything. So how
Right.
can you, as a white woman, tell me that you can craft a better message than I ever could as a Palestinian woman who has this trauma that I'm watching on
Hmm.
social media, like literally flowing through my veins. Like I'm watching it and it's like my grandfather's brain, like it was passed down in his blood, is just like all of his memories are like floating around in my head. So I got really frustrated.
Yeah.
And for all the things that I had adjusted in my life to be able to fit in with corporate America, I changed the type of mother that I thought I wanted to be. I changed the mothering style that I had. I gave up, family events to work overtime. I traveled a lot for work. I was like, this is the one thing that I think this is my line. Like this is my boundary. You don't
Yeah.
get to take Palestine away from me, and you don't get to tell me how to talk as a Palestinian. And this is coming from a company that, praised me. I had won awards for the company for my work in DEI.
Hmm.
Um, it was at the height of BLM, and I was the only non-white person on the team. So I
Wow.
was like the conscience for the team. Like
Yeah.
I would be the person that they would go to with questions. I would check
You
people's
were the
racism.
person in the room that they needed in the room. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was doing, I was doing campaigns for brands that we were working with that centered Ramadan. We were winning awards for that. But when it came time for me to simply do my own thing, it wasn't
Hmm.
connected to the company at all, but to
Right.
just do my own thing as a Palestinian and be able to tell our stories, I was asked to temper the messaging. And so that was it. I quit within like 2, 3 weeks of that issue coming up. And I decided to launch my own agency, which is still
Which is
alive and doing well.
ZAYTOUN Publicity, correct?
Yeah, yeah. So I
Yeah.
launched the
Okay. Tell
publicity.
tell us a little bit about that. I'm really interested.
Yeah, so it started off as a way to insert Indigenous stories. Of course, there's a focus on Palestinian stories because I am Palestinian, but it was open to all Indigenous founders and brands and creators and get them traditional PR hits um, in an industry that is entirely unequal. So if you don't know anything about the PR industry, it's a very expensive asset to have as a company, as a founder.
Hmm.
Um, the average publicity campaign starts at like $10,000 a month on retainer, which is an absurd number. You cannot afford it unless you are an already like established or supported brand. And by that, I mean, it's usually, a white founder with generational wealth that they can, use on something like a PR campaign that doesn't always, you know, present results for a brand, or you are somebody who can raise a lot of money in
Hmm.
investment for things like marketing and public relations. And again, the people who are raising millions of dollars for companies, for startups, are typically white men. It's just facts. Like these are just statistics of like where
Right.
money goes in these industries. So I wanted to make it a little bit more equitable. I wanted to open up like affordable options for founders of brands with good stories because inherently at our core, specifically Palestinians and other indigenous communities, everything that we do always kind of has this like give back incentive. Either a percentage of sales is going towards helping, our people back home,
Hmm.
or helping with education or food distribution. um, and so I really believed that those stories, and I still believe it, those stories have a place in traditional media.
Hmm.
But if you don't have the money, you don't get the exposure.
Right.
So I wanted to be that option for brands who were looking for PR campaigns from somebody who had been in the industry for 12 years, um, and just be able to help share their stories. And it was really, really amazing. I worked with some incredible, incredible brands. Um, my first ever uh, client was Pally Roots. So I feel like that was a really
Oh, that's
great,
amazing.
yeah,
Yeah,
that was a really great starting point.
there you go.
And yeah, and then it kind of evolved from, traditional PR is very difficult to break into as a Palestinian. I started getting blacklisted by editors. Like literally, I would get bounce back emails when I would do like follow up saying that like you have been blocked from sending
Wow.
emails to this
Very
address.
direct.
Yeah, there were a couple of really cool like TV hits that I had almost gotten for clients, and then they realized that they were Palestinian, and I was just ghosted by the producers, and I was told, "Oh, I hope they don't hate Israel. I have to go back to our, human resources department and our legal department and see if this is okay," as if it would be an issue with any other brand from any
Right.
other culture, right?
Exactly.
Shout out to the Nick Cannon show.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. So I just like I knew it was a hard industry to break through with the goals that I had. Um, and I needed to find like another way to continue paying my bills essentially while also still like doing this work. So we had transitioned a little bit into events for media agencies and museums and social justice centric organizations. So we do a lot of that still, which I love. I actually thrive in like the producer role. Um, and now we have a team. We're five total, all Palestinian. Uh,
Amazing.
and we do a little bit of traditional PR, but still not our focus, mainly because I think after October, everybody has kind of realized that like uh, traditional big media has this agenda that they will continue to enforce. And we have focused a little bit more on content creation and production for brands and founders and organizations, and also influencer marketing. So, again, for those who don't know, Palestinian influencers make $0. um, we don't get to make a life out of content creation, and so the goal is to just connect really good brands with really good people who have really wonderful audiences, and just help them like make a living
Yeah. I
doing
mean,
what they love.
it's like you're taking all of your experience and all of your expertise and really giving back to the community and
Yeah,
helping them really find, yeah, like find their true career and really uplift them. And that's amazing.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really love what the company has become. I love our team. Um, Again, nobody's gonna fight for a Palestinian
Yeah.
influencer or content creator or brand better than a Palestinian.
Of
So,
course.
um, everybody that signs on with us is a brand that's special to us or that we relate to and really believe in their story. Um, and it's also a way to make sure that everybody that you're working with is on the same page as you, like ethically, morally. They also understand that in the context of public relations, there is nothing that is like an emergency or urgent in the context of genocide. So we're
Right.
very intentional with who we choose to work with.
And if someone wanted to reach out to you and work with ZAYTOUN Publicity, how could they do that?
Yeah, you can. We have a website, zaytounpublicity.com. And you can also email us at info@zaytounpublicity.com.
Amazing. And just while we're on the topic of PR, because I think, as you sort of mentioned earlier, like we're more aware of the PR that goes on in our society and it's constant. Um, What is your advice to someone when they are trying to have these difficult conversations with people who are just not as educated on Palestine or who like to throw certain dates at us, right? Like, October 7th, anytime we
Mm.
try to just speak up for the suffering of the Palestinian people or educate them. How can people combat that in conversation? And what is your advice to someone when they are faced with that sort of rebuttal?
That's a good question. I think my first piece of advice is to make sure that you are talking to somebody who is worthy of what you have to say. I don't believe that everybody's mind can be changed. I don't believe that it's worth our energy to change everybody's mind. So if you are like in conversation with a staunch Zionist who just literally cannot get past that date or like feels the need to justify the murder of upwards of 300,000 people because of this date, they are not worth your energy. It's okay to move on. Um, if you're in conversation with somebody who you know has a genuinely good heart, has a kind soul, um, and that you can connect with on like a human perspective, and just like the overall notion that like everybody deserves to live in freedom and dignity, um, then I would just present them very gently and gracefully with a starting point. So if they think that the starting point is October 7th, bring them back to 1948. Our history starts well before then, including our history with, fighting
Mhm.
Zionism.
Yeah.
But bring them to the starting point that Palestinians want you to start from. And right now, that starting point is 1948. Get them to understand that specifically Palestinians in the United States are not always here by choice. Um, a good talking point for me, or like a starting point for me, was like getting people to understand in 2021 that like what you were watching happening in Sheikh Jarrah is what happened to my grandfather in 1948, and that is why I am now a Palestinian American and not just a Palestinian in Palestine.
Right.
And so it's finding common ground, which again should be everybody deserves the chance to live and to
Mhm.
live safely and freely and in dignity. And just kind of seeing where the conversation goes, and also like arming yourself with the knowledge that you need, right? Like you need to be able to kind of go into these conversations blindly, trusting yourself that you will have the correct answer, or like set of facts that you need to counter whatever Zionist talking point that they might be throwing at you unintentionally. Again, we don't talk to staunch Zionists, but if
Right.
somebody there are people that like don't actually know that they're being programmed by the Israeli government or the American government. And so it's just kind of understanding how to like bring them back into themselves. I think a lot of like American and Israeli PR requires people to like disconnect from themselves, disconnect from your mind, stop believing your eyes, and stop believing what you see.
Which is
Uh,
insane behavior.
yes, it is
Like it's
absolutely
so
insane.
insane. Like I
Yeah.
don't how do you believe everything else on your phone and choose not to believe that?
Yeah, yeah, it's weird. I mean, like programming is a really difficult thing, and not to
Mhm.
like plug, a project that I'm working on, but like, um,
No, please
mm,
plug your projects that you're working on.
Alana Hadid and I are working on a book, through Penguin Random House, which is incredible.
Wow, amazing. Congrats.
Thank you for a really incredible series called Race to the Truth. And it is essentially a series of ongoing books for middle school aged kids, really their parents, because all of us have been programmed by the American school system.
True.
But it's for middle school aged kids to learn the truth about American history. And so, it starts off with a book about colonization and the Wampanoag people, just talking about the truth about the first Thanksgiving. And there's one on chattel slavery and speaking to, the Black community and exclusion and the Chinese American story, borderlands and the Mexican American story.
This
It's
is
basically
incredible.
how,
Yeah.
yeah, how all of these identities came to the United States, the truth about how we all got here. And it's from the perspective of somebody in that community where they're also talking about heroes from within that community that like liberated themselves, right? Because like
Right.
thought that like one day Abraham Lincoln just woke up and was like, I'm gonna abolish slavery. That
Yeah,
didn't happen.
yeah.
Yeah. And so believe it or not, they greenlit a book for Palestinian Americans.
Incredible.
Yeah, one of the series owners, Syra Rao, who's really incredible. She really fought for specifically the Palestinian American um, book, and it's called Displacement in the Palestinian American Story, and it just goes back to um, Palestine pre-colonization, like pre-British, pre-Ottoman, and teaching kids the truth. And so the point of this series, long-winded version of saying that the purpose of this series is to like deprogram kids from what they're learning in American schools. A couple of the books have already landed themselves on banned book lists, so
You know
I
what? Great.
expect ours to do the same. Yeah.
That's a great list to be on, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. So that should hopefully be out in 2027, but it's teaching people the truth. It's meant to be a starting point for people to learn about Palestine, to pique their interest and curiosity in the truth, understand that they have been programmed to believe something different. And it's like a stepping stone for like the 100 Years War on Palestine and like the Palestine Laboratory and these like really intense, heavy books that are filled with so much knowledge. This is hopefully like the first thing that you should be able to hand somebody when they
I
say,
love
"Tell me
that.
everything
And
about Palestine."
I taught middle school social studies and language arts, and the way that we have to teach an entire unit every year on the Holocaust is great, but this could
Mhm.
be a really great accompanying book to also translate that into other real life scenarios and tell, other people's stories that relate to genocide and relate to Holocaust on a more recent level, right? And to really
Yes.
help them understand that
Yeah.
pattern.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that, and maybe I'll get to have you and Alana in person here, and we can discuss the book when it finally comes
That would
out.
be amazing.
That would be
Yes.
amazing.
That'll light
Um,
the fire that I need to finish it.
oh yeah, please finish it. We need this. Our kids need this. No, I love that, and I'm so glad that you're able to bring your storytelling to that level. I mean, that's amazing, and I can only imagine what you will accomplish next. And I always ask everyone the same question at the end. Like, if I were to interview you again in 5 years, and I were to ask you, Jenan, what are you working on? What would you be up to in 5 years, do you think?
I hope it's a film. Um, I hope that I hope that it's turning Everything Grows in Jiddo's Garden into um, a beautiful, like animated short or animated series for our kids. I hope that I'm at least two or three more books into the series that I'm envisioning in my head. Um, into but like down the line. Um, so I hope I just keep writing. Like I want to make it a thing. I want to take all of this education that we've given people on the internet, which seems like it's going to implode at any moment, and turn it into real physical things that, can survive whatever happens next in this point in history. I think books are so, so important. And um,
Do
like
you
I
have
just,
any that you recommend, like to someone listening to this podcast and they just want to learn more? What do you recommend that they start with?
oh my God, that's such a, hold on. I have my whole bookshelf. You can't see it.
No, it's blurred out.
I mean, there's, and if you're looking for um like narration type books like romance or like fiction but like based on historical novels, Salt Houses is amazing. Mornings in Janine. If you need like textbook type stuff, like real just hardcore education, the books that I mentioned before, 100 Years War on Palestine and Palestine Laboratory are great places
Mm.
to start. I would just suggest like always looking for Palestinian authors to read from. Even when we write fiction, there's still so much of our history that is included in these
Yeah.
books that you learn. Um, and yeah, oh my God, off the top of my head, I could
Yeah,
have a
those are
whole
great
list for you.
recommendations. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna look into those as well. And so Everything Grows in Jiddo's Garden comes out in August.
Yes,
Yes?
August
Yeah.
12th. It's
I've
a
already
ship date.
pre-ordered three, so I'm gonna put a link in the
Oh,
show notes for pre-order as well.
okay.
Very excited about that. Congratulations. This
Yeah.
has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today and to be on Well Rooted. I'm so excited for you, and I'm so excited to see what else you create for us.
Thank you. It was an honor to chat with you, and
Oh, thank you.
I appreciate you just wanting to meet, like wanting me to be on here. So I
Yeah,
love
you
chatting with people.
okay, so I'm gonna be completely just honest for a minute. So
Okay.
like when I first came up with Well Rooted, I had like I made a list of people that I wanted. And you were one of the top three. Like every time I made a list, I kind of manifested that. I was like, you were one of my top three. So I'm really glad I got to speak with
Good.
you. You're very
What an
inspiring.
honor. Thank
Yeah.
you. And if I can help you get anybody else on that list, let me know. It's a small community.
Thank
So
you. Yeah, anyone you recommend that
okay,
honestly I would love. That would mean a lot. Thank you.
absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Well Rooted. If you enjoyed today's episode and felt it brought you value, please subscribe, leave a comment, give us a like, and a review. This episode of Well Rooted has been brought to you by Jenan Associates CPAs. With locations across all of Los Angeles, Jenan Associates has been helping entrepreneurs and creatives make their dreams come true for over 2 decades. Go to JerardCPA.com to learn more. This is Haneen, and we are all well rooted.